Hi, I'm Liron Cohen.
And I'm Mimi Torchin.
And you're listening to Lady Parts TV, the podcast.
Whee!
Hello, everybody.
Hi there.
Welcome back to Lady Parts TV, the podcast. Our stats for this week, we only tallied 19 shows. I don't know how that happened.
No, we certainly watched more.
We were, I don't know. But out of which written or co-written by women, 12, which is 63%, please. And directed by a woman, 9, which is 47%. Kind of our
Not
usual.
bad.
Yeah, but actually good stats with the women writers this week.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to start you off with a movie review for a movie that we had waited for a long time.
Our most anticipated film of the summer, for
Pretty
sure.
much, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's in theaters right now. It's written by Mindy Kaling and directed by Nisha Ganatra, so already 2 women. And it's starring, let me just pause a second and then say, Emma Thompson.
Emma Thompson.
Who needs a pause before and after because it's Emma Thompson. Or should I say Dame Emma Thompson.
Emma Thompson.
Mindy Kaling herself. And a bunch of other really fantastic people like John Lithgow, Amy Ryan, Hugh Dancy, Dennis O'Hare.
A tiny little moment by Annalee Ashford.
But you know,
Always.
it's not the size. She was wonderful.
No,
it's not the size
always.
of the role. She was wonderful. And it's about, so Emma Thompson plays Catherine Newberry, who is the singular female late night show, which unfortunately is still, it hasn't even happened yet. Samantha Bee only has one a week.
It did happen. Joan Rivers had her own show.
Was it a late night show? Weekly
Yes, it
late night
was.
show? Okay, well we need something again.
Yes.
And she is intelligent and will
She's
not.
an institution. I mean, she's been around a long time.
But she put her emphasis on doing quality shows.
Quality shows.
She doesnn't do, those stupid bits that a lot of the late night show hosts
No,
do.
and she talks a lot about books and theater
and politics. And she has
yes.
she has quality guests, not reality stars and things like that. And so her ratings are dropping, and they want to replace her with a young man who does that kind of thing. Dennis O'Hare, who is her right hand, blames her that she hates women and that her staff room looks all white men. So they hire what they call a quote-unquote diversity hire, Mindy Kaling, who barely even has any experience.
She works at a chemical plant, and she does. She makes jokes over the PA system.
Right, but she's obviously a natural, and they are desperate and they need somebody, so they hire her. And
she's spunky.
She's a breath of fresh air,
Yes.
and she brings in exactly what they need. And Catherine, despite herself, knows that she needs her. Anyway,
Yes, Catherine is not nice. She's not horrid to her staff. She's very superior to everybody. She is not a likable woman.
But at some point she realizes that the thing she's doing wrong is that she's trying to be a man in a man's world rather than capitalize on what she has that is singular to her, which is she's a woman. And so she takes that, and she takes Mindy's
with the help
support.
of Mindy Kaling's
It was really
suggestions.
It was really, really well written, obviously well acted. Emma. I can just stare at her and watch her do anything for as long as she wants.
Well, and she's magnificent, as she always is. She looks so fabulous.
She's such a good actress.
She's such a great actress. Now, I have to say that for me, there was something missing in this film. I don't know exactly what it was. It was like there was a beat missing. There was it just wasn't quite as great
I think it's
as
something
I
about the rhythm of it.
expected it to be. But I still loved every minute of it.
Yeah.
It to me, what I imagined it was going to be was not quite.
See, to me, it's the opposite, because usually with comedies, I'm always prepared to be underwhelmed because it's comedies, and it's so hard to make comedy good and intelligent and actually funny. So to me, it was actually better than I expected.
Yeah, I think I expected more The Devil Wears Prada, and that's probably
been done,
one
though.
of the best. They've all been done. It's probably one of the best comedies of its kind,
But-
and dramedies almost, but very funny. And this just wasn't quite up to the bite of
But
that.
how fabulous to see two wonderful women in an intelligent, funny comedy,
Very intelligent, for
all
sure,
about
and
being
very
a
funny.
woman. So I loved it. I think
Yes,
you
I
loved
loved
it too.
I couldn't recommend it more highly.
Late night in theaters right now, and if you needed one singular reason to see it,
Emma Thompson. And on a completely different note,
So different. It's like a tenor, like a high treble and a deep bass.
as they would say in England, chalk and cheese. It's as different as chalk and cheese. When They See Us, 4-episode miniseries on Netflix, directed by, I must say, the great Ava DuVernay.
I mean, she's so young.
What a
She's been
voice.
around for such a short time, and I already think she deserves the great, the adjective
I think
great.
she's a genius. I really do.
Yeah.
I think that she's going to be one of the great directors.
I think she already is. She just hasn't been
But
given
she
the...
is going to be credited as being one of the great directors
because to me
of
she
our
was
generation.
already snubbed for Selma, which was a wonderful
film,
movie.
Yes.
I
don't think she
anybody
can be snubbed
yeah,
for this.
I was going to say I don't think anybody can really continue to
No.
ignore her.
This is a very, very difficult series to watch, especially the first episode.
And in fact, if I may just say, it took us a while, as you may see, this came out already a few weeks ago. It took us a while to review it for you because we watched the first episode and just couldn't go on. It took us a while before we got ourselves to watch it again, and then we couldn't stop watching it. But the first episode was just so torturous.
And one of the reasons it's so torturous is because it's real life. It began in 1989. The case was the Central Park Five, as it was known. There were a bunch of African-American boys who ran through Central Park wilding, vandalizing things,
and completely unrelated.
terrorizing people. And in a completely unrelated incident, a female jogger was raped and
Brutally.
brutally raped. Yes, she did live. And these 5 teenagers who were babies, 14 to 16, I think. Somehow or other, they got picked up in the middle of this miasma, and the police and the district attorney, the press, everybody decided they were guilty.
They basically tailored the case. They actually fed them their story that they had to repeat and tortured them to...
They questioned them for 18 hours, 19
Not
hours,
giving them
giving them food, water, bathroom breaks.
and scaring them to death.
death.
Threatening their parents.
Yes, most of them they did it without their parents there. When the parents were there, they threatened the parents. There was one mother, Adjuana Ellis, who did stick up for her child as best she could. But the way that they treated these boys, the way that they used them as scapegoats to make their case, get a win, and move on, because the press was clamoring for their for someone to solve the case.
Trump basically
took
said
out
they should
four,
be executed.
4 full-page ads in the 4 major newspapers in New York City saying that the death penalty should be brought back for these boys. I remember it, and what I remember most about it was the year I started my magazine. I was a little busy. I wasn't paying too much attention to what was going around, is that the press crucified them. And when you watch this, you will feel their pain. You will feel their fear. You will see the injustice of it. It will make you seethe with rage. Now, each one takes a different point of view. And moves the story along.
So much as the subject matter. So the first one was the interrogation.
Right.
The second one was the court happenings. Right. The third one was prison time for some of them.
Right.
And the fourth was
all about.
The fourth was the truly mind blowing one, starring Jarrell Jerome, who played Corey.
And he played Corey throughout. Most of them had young kids playing them first, and then they were played by other actors as adults, because Corey was 16. He was able to age into the part. And he is heartbreaking, as was the baby, Kevin.
Asante Black.
Asante Black, who will break your heart.
The parents were also the people playing the parents, Niecy Nash, John Leguizamo, and of course we already mentioned
I always call her Anjuan
Ellis. And Vera Farmiga plays the district attorney,
and
right?
Felicity Huffman,
probably the last thing we'll ever see her.
Plays Linda Fairstein, and I'm embarrassed to say I bought her books over the year. She was a monster.
Yeah.
She was so ambitious. She did not care one bit for the humanity of these boys.
Which is such a shame because she's the one who
she
basically
went on,
created...
Actually, she created this, the
Special Victims
Unit. She went on to do actually great things.
For women.
But this will... haunt her record for the rest of her life.
She had she had no regard for other minority groups except for women. It's a heartbreaking tale that I'm so happy is being told in full now. And again, Eva DuVernay,
and with such art, with such creativity.
It's one of the best things I've ever seen.
And every single character, every single actor is brilliant in their role, and I mean brilliant.
Yes.
I don't mean that as a throwaway.
Yes.
Absolutely perfection. You must watch it. Get past the first one. It doesn't ever really get easier, but since you know the outcome,
it helps.
There is hope.
Yeah, it helps.
Right.
When They See Us is on Netflix. Watch it. And by the way, in case you're wondering why it's called When They See Us, apparently Eva DuVernay said that since they were known as the Central Park Five, and they didn't have faces or names, and nobody saw them as real people. Everybody it was easier to dehumanize them that way. And so how important it is to see the people behind those big cases.
And she pulled back the curtain, and we saw them inside and out and felt their pain. Now... Liron called this a rescue review. I thought she was talking about a show called Rescue, and I was going to say, I don't know that.
Rescue Special Ops is a different
mind really
thing.
Gone? Anyway, it's Designated Survivors Resurrection on Netflix. You can watch all the episodes of the third season on Netflix. You can binge it if you're so inclined. And actually, after we got through the first one, which was a little slow, we did watch a couple in a row. It's very, very good. It's, of course, still starring Kiefer Sutherland, Natalia Ricci, Cal Penn, Maggie Q,
and Adam Canto.
And we have new additions, Anthony Edwards, Lauren Holly, and a bunch of people who are excellent.
But also, I would
Julie
like to...
White.
Julie White, who is, to me, the star of this new season.
Absolutely. She plays his campaign manager, the president's, Kiefer Sutherland's campaign manager. He's going to run as an independent.
Right. She's such a...
she's a firecracker.
She is. She adds so much to the show. And also Jamie Clayton, who plays his sister-in-law, who is transgender.
Yes. And, comes in about the third episode.
Yeah, they use her at the beginning to try to, throw shade on him and his campaign.
That's something to throw shade, that they never told anybody about his transgender sister-in-law. That just comes up in conversation.
But actually, it's an interesting it's an interesting point that they raise, because he didn't hide her. He just didn't want to. I mean, she's a private person, and he didn't see any reason to use her for his campaign. And but it's interesting because he's being attacked from both sides, from the right for his family values and all this other stuff, and from the left he's being accused by the LGBT community for hiding her and for being ashamed. And so it's actually was an interesting way to show how sometimes it can be tough to please anybody.
Exactly, and all they were trying to do was respect her privacy. She did not want to be brought into public life. But now she has to be.
She's joining the show.
Yes.
Jamie Clayton, who you might remember from Sense8, who's a wonderful actress and is here for at least 6 episodes from what we could see. And I think she's a wonderful addition to the show as well. The show needed an interjection of more interesting women. And actually this... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say they have a gay couple.
They have a gay black... they have a gay black man. I don't know if they're going to
be a couple. But I think I think something's going to develop between them. I think that was sort of established.
So the show is on Netflix now, which means they can swear,
and they do.
Nice, and
which is nice. Well, they talk like real people.
Exactly, that's what I mean. And the show is definitely edgier. First of all, by incorporating the trans story, the gay story. There's a very prominent story, kind of a story that questions from a Latino perspective, using again this thing about diversity that is now you never know if somebody actually means to hire somebody because of who they are or because they add the
diversity. They check off that box, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. There are a lot of interesting social issues that are being questioned. And while all this is happening, Maggie Q is investigating a biological weapon.
Exactly,
thing.
that seems to be targeting people of color.
Yeah.
So it's quite. I'm really enjoying it more than I ever did, and I used to like it quite a bit, especially before they killed his wife.
But also what I like is that in the original, it was more serious. It was more episodic. There was like the problem of the day, the case of the day that they would solve, and of course there were a few serial things. But this one is much more as a piece. You know, the whole season.
And of course, we're watching a campaign while we're watching a campaign.
These shows like Madam Secretary and Designated Survivor, usually, if they're good, they provide a certain kind of alternative fantasy,
an outlet
to a reality that's too hard to bear at the moment.
Although one of his opponents is very Trump-like and horrible.
Well, but hopefully we will prevail.
We will.
So the new season of Designated Survivor is on Netflix right now. Go binge. Now, this is especially a great podcast episode because we have a double dose of Emma Thompson. And I'm all for as much Emma Thompson as we can have, even though in this specific role, I'm not. It's gonna be very hard for her to make me hate her, but I think she's that good.
I think I hated her in the preview already.
Anyway, this is called Years and Years. It's another HBO and BBC co-production. You might remember the other one being Gentleman Jack.
Remember that little show?
that little show, yeah. This time the Brits got it first. I'm okay with that arrangement. Us getting Gentleman Jack first, and then getting Years and Years.
Fine with me. Then getting Donald Trump first.
It was created by Russell T Davies, who also created Torchwood and A Very English Scandal.
Both shows that I liked very much.
And it's starring Emma Thompson, also Anne Reid, whom you might remember from Last Tango in Halifax,
and
among many other things. Yeah. And it is a show about... It's going to be enraging. It's going to be hard to watch. It's going to be so real that it's going to be very scary. But it's about Emma Thompson plays a rising politician who comes off as this at the in as this politician,
sort of a breath of fresh air,
because she's
who's
telling it like it is,
and telling it like it is, and
but
anti-establishment.
Over the course of 15 years, which this show follows. We're going to see pretty much the world falling apart, which is what we're starting to see right now, both with Donald Trump, with Brexit.
She looks a little more like Hitler to me than she does even Donald Trump, because I think that she's intelligent.
But I think all of these references are there on purpose.
Yes, fascism.
Fascism, how do you say it? Demagoguery, scare tactics, appealing to the lowest common denominator. And I think that it's
nationalistic.
Oh, very much. Yeah. It's a family. It's a family, and we see all of their reactions throughout the 15 years. And, you know, like in many other families, like, for example, around the U.S., who have some Republicans, some Democrats.
Not in my family.
Thank goodness. But many families do have those tears, and it's about how the family deals, the different parts of the family and the family as a whole deals with what's going on. And yes, there is a gay couple, and I think that they're starting to be scared of losing their rights. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen it yet. It's premiering on HBO June 24th, but it already finished airing on the BBC. And from what I could tell from my British friends' reactions, it was so good that it was hard. It was very hard, mm-hmm. And I think it's going to be an important show to watch.
I think putting Emma as the central character here, because Emma, who is so charismatic, to use her charisma for ill rather than good, is very smart.
Yes, it messes with your head.
Mm-hmm.
You see somebody that you normally love being this vile person. So it helps make that conflict between, do I like her? Is she finally doing something different, and should we respect her for it? Or is she, a threat?
She's the monster she seems to be.
So Years and Years on HBO, premiering June 24th.
Watch the preview.
On Monday, to help us recover from our Gentleman Jack withdrawal. And we will definitely review it as we go on.
Now, we saw a movie called Pause. It was released June 14th in theaters in Los Angeles and in video on demand. it's a Greek film.
Yes, it's. I think it's a co-production of Greece and Cyprus. I'm not sure about that, but yeah.
It's co-written by Tanya Misciali and Anna Fotiadou and directed by Tanya Misciali. And it stars Stella Firogeni as Elpida.
We're so sorry about our
Well,
stumbling upon these names. Stumbling on
she's
these
the
names.
main character. Andreas Vasilou plays her husband Kostas, and Poppy Avram plays her best friend Eleftheria. Very slow, very deliberate, very depressing. Anybody out there who saw the Israeli film Get
We'll get it.
will get it. Very good. It's about a woman in a terrible marriage who is trapped. And
by the way, the movie was originally, they thought about calling it Menopause, and then they changed it to Pause.
Whatever is going on with her hormones, it's making her less tolerant. She sort of reaches a breaking point in this terrible marriage where she is treated as a servant, basically, by this horrible man who was an arranged marriage. Because I wondered partway through, gosh, did they fall in love and did it deteriorate?
Was it at some point better?
It was. He was always like this. She was always miserable, but now she can tolerate it less.
Well, I think I don't know about biologically if you can tolerate it less, but also women come to a point in their lives when enough is enough, and also when you start looking back, and I think menopause makes women start
I think when
looking
you're
back.
emotionally more vulnerable to things.
Yes, but it also makes you wonder,
what did I miss? They have no children.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How much more time do I have, and what have I sacrificed, and where am I going?
She has fantasies,
both sexual and violent.
And sometimes it's hard to tell what's fantasy and what's reality, but that's sort of her release. And she has a very wonderful friend in her building who helps her, just drags her out of the house and says, come on, we're going to go have some fun. You see all the way through it that she has life left in her. I mean, she colors her hair. She wants to look better. She has desires. But this man just, not physically, but emotionally suppresses.
But the filmmaker said that the film, which was very personal to her, was based on the things she saw growing up in Cyprus.
The way women were treated.
Right, and I was wondering, and if we have listeners or followers in those areas, in those countries, I'm really curious to know if this is the generation of her mother, the filmmaker's mother, and if things are different now, or if things really are still very patriarchal, very oppressive. I would really love to know. If you want to email us, ladypartstv@gmail.com.
We'd be very interested. Anyway, I have to recommend this film. It's not easy.
It's not easy.
It is not an easy film, but in the end, you will
appreciate that you have been taken on this journey. And first of all,
the acting,
the acting and the directing and the way it was shot,
everything. It's a gem, a tiny little piece of art.
Yeah. I mean, prepare to be very depressed watching it. Prepare to be sucked into a universe that will kind of haunt you for a while.
Oh yes, I couldn't shake it for hours and hours and hours.
But it was very, very good. And the main actress, Stella Firogeni, which the movie pretty much never leaves her face.
No.
She was stunning.
She barely has time to breathe.
She was stunning.
Yeah.
So Pause. You can get it on Vimeo on demand, and if you're in the big cities,
video on demand.
What did I say?
Vimeo.
Oh, video on demand. And if you're in the big cities, you might even find it in an art house for foreign films.
If there are any that still exist in your city.
Yeah, I know. Now, finally, very quickly, we just want to re-review Tales of the City for you. Again. Because we just enjoyed it so much. The first few episodes, it took us time to get into it, but then I think the last 7, we just binged in 2 days.
It just got so riveting. Literally, you just couldn't take your eyes off of you. You had to know what the secret was. You had to know what was going on, what was going to happen next.
And I enjoyed spending time with those people.
Oh, yes.
I also loved the story with Jen Richards and Daniela Vega. Jen Richards playing Anna Madrigal's character when she was younger. There was a secret that they go back to expose.
To San Francisco from Minnesota, I think.
And Jen Richards is a wonderful, wonderful actress. And Daniela Vega, you might remember from A Fantastic Woman, also wonderful actress. I love that story. And by the way, we read recently in the Pride edition of EW, I'm pretty sure that all the new cast of the show is all members of the LGBTQ community.
Exactly. They're all what they're meant to be.
Yes, gay characters. Well, I don't know if
It's
all
the
of what
most
they're meant to be,
inclusive,
because Ellen Page is a lesbian and she's playing a bisexual. I don't know that they're exactly what this, but they're all members of the LGBT community.
Of the community, yes, and
it's just so wonderful.
It is.
It was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
It was very well written as always, and beautifully acted, and joyous and sad.
Yeah.
But
it was
mostly
all the things.
full of life and love for this community.
Yeah, exactly. So again, ending with a proud moment.
Yes, and
this
an
Pride Month.
89-year-old Olympia Dukakis, who is
Wonderful.
first of all beautiful and vibrant and amazing. But Anna Madrigal was always the center, and she's really the center in this one.
So go watch Tales of the City on Netflix if you haven't already. And just a reminder, really, email us, ladypartstv@gmail.com. Tell us what you've been watching, what you think about what we said, or what we didn't say. Let us know. And on that, we will leave you for another week, and we'll see you next Saturday.
Au revoir.
Bye.